Hello there. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Chloe. I am a yoga teacher with a specialisation in pre and postnatal, and I am absolutely bonkers about biomechanics. So I try and blend those two practices, those two learnings that I have, teachings, into real support that works for women in pregnancy and postnatal. So I help women with their birth preparation and also with their healing postnatally as well. And one of the things that really is the foundation for pretty much everything that I do is this idea that strengthening the pelvic floor with kegals isn't always the right thing for the woman in front of us as trainers, or for you as a pregnant or postnatal person. So I just wanted to cover one of the really kind of basic things that I do really often. So let me explain. A pelvic floor contraction consists of a drawing up of the pelvic floor, so a tightening of the muscle, and then a releasing of the muscle. But there's a problem with that. So a lot of women that I see actually have really tight posterior pelvic floor. So that means the back of their pelvic floor is holding on all the time. Now there's two reasons for this. One of them is the way that we live our lives. We're quite often kind of in positions, sitting a lot, not as mobile anymore. So we have a lot of stiffness and tightness through the posterior chain, which causes tightness. But also, and I think this is one of the biggest factors, is this stress. When we hold stress in our body, when we tighten through our jaw, that tension here travels all the way through the vagus nerve and down into the pelvic floor, causing it to be tight as well. So you've got the external muscles that surround the back of the pelvic floor, like the glutes and the hamstrings and the hip flexors. Quite often they're tight because of the way we live our lives. And the jobs that we do, but also there's this tension that so many of us hold on to because we're either in really stressful jobs, we don't allow enough time for ourselves to rest, or perhaps we're already parents and we're constantly trying to juggle a million and one things, and we're just and this also on a really deep tissue level, fascia level, causes tightness. Now, when you're trying to birth your baby, that's a problem because your pelvic floor doesn't actually push your baby out. Your pelvic floor needs to lengthen and release and let go in order to allow the uterus to push the baby out. So that's something that we cover in a biomechanical birth point of view. But also postnatally, if you're just doing pelvic floor contractions and you're just continuing to tighten something that's already tight, you're probably going to find that your symptoms, if they're leaking, if they're associated with leaking and heaviness, get worse, which is what happened for me. I have very tight posterior pelvic floor, really tight glutes, goes back to being a ballet dancer and having my feet in second all the time or first and trying to turn out my toes. So really tight through the back body. And in my first pregnancy, I had pelvic girdle pain and then a lot of pain after pregnancy and a lot of heaviness. And in my second pregnancy, quite early on, I had really tight, or I had pain in the front of my pelvis. So I had specifically pain, that lightning crotch pain that you hear people talk about. I think it was probably more on the right side than it was on the left. And I went to see a physio and I was told to do kegals, and that actually made it worse. So then I had to think outside of the box, and I did a lot of work with biomechanics. There's a fantastic lady up here in the northeast that helped me called Colette Pryor. She's working now with lots of different coaches to train them in this, but I really want to focus on mums and helping mums to manage any kind of dysfunctional sensation that just doesn't feel right during pregnancy and after they've had their babies. So what can we do other than kegals? So much. But one of the things that we need to start with is breathing well. And yes, for some of you, it might feel really boring, but once you get it, it really is life-changing. Breathing well, getting some expansion into the back of the body makes your nervous system feel so much better, but it also helps with neck pain, shoulder pain, lower back pain, front of hip pain. If we can get our body moving functionally, it just changes so much for us. So if we're thinking about the pelvic floor being really tight and we've got this drawing back, so here in this muscle here, we've got this pulling back, so the pelvic floor muscles pulling back, which is over lengthening through the front of the body. The first thing we need to do is stop this pulling up and back. And one of my favourite things to do with this is to put people into a position and then cue them to breathe. So the position is a child's pose, because you'll see when I go here, so the other thing about pregnancy and postnatal is you get a really flared rib cage, because your bump needs your rib cage to flare and your abdominals to separate to grow your baby, which is great, but we also need to kind of bring the rib cage back. And we can maintain this in pregnancy to a certain degree and then really focus on it postnatally. And one of my favourite things to do is give people a block, and you could change the height of this to rest your forehead on. And then put the forearms on the floor with your palms turning up. Now, what you could just do here is take a big breath in through the nose, and then open the jaw and exhale with a, and you keep going until you've got no breath left. Then you close your mouth and inhale through the nose. And we encourage the inhale to go into the back of the body, and what you'll find is that you get a lot more expansion because you've compressed through the front. Now, if you don't really feel this, doing this just with the block and just with the arms, there's a couple of other things that you can do. You could use a cushion. There was just one here a moment ago. Here it is. You could use a cushion, roll it up and put it onto your thighs, so that you're now stopping any breath moving into the belly, and it has to go behind. It has to go into the back of the rib cage, which is going to really help with that rib cage to expand back, and then that's going to help to release the pressure that's happening in your bottom. So that's technique one. So we put our head on the block, we push our forearms into the floor, we take a big breath in, we take a full breath out, and then we inhale into the back of the rib cage. And then another big exhale. Now, the other thing that you can do is when you take your next inhales, imagine you're trying to send all of the breath from your nose into your bottom. That's quite a good way. And then another big long breath out. And the final layer to this is, as you take your inhale, thinking about breathing into your back of your rib cage and your bottom, push your hands into the floor. And for me, that gets loads of extra expansion. So child's pose, forehead on a block, pushing the hands into the floor and breathing into the back body. And that is the start. That is how we start to release all of this tension and this pressure that is going on through the back of the body from this position of carrying a baby, or from this position because you stick into external, you flare your ribs when you hold your baby once they're a bit bigger. My Beatrice is 2 now and I still do this. I carry her on my right hip and I stick my rib cage out. So breathing into the back, rolling forwards is going to get the rib cage to come down. Then inhaling into the back of the rib cage, thinking about breathing into the bottom. They're all those foundational pieces just to start to tease a little bit of length into the back of the body. Now, if you're pregnant, that's obviously not an option for you. Stay tuned, subscribe, because next week I'll be doing a breath practice that is suitable for those in pregnancy. And I also have a little mini course that I've created that really just shares the foundations of the biomechanics of how breath and movement work, and how we can use those to support our pelvic floor and support our hip, back and neck pain throughout pregnancy and into motherhood. So I'll link that in the text along here as well. But yeah, stay tuned for more. There is so much that I have to share with you, and thank you very much for listening. if you did this and you felt like a light bulb moment come on and it really worked for you, then let me know. I love helping people out, and maybe there's some other things that you've got going on in your body which might inspire me to do some more videos for you. And if it didn't work, then let me know, which bit are you stuck on, because if you were stuck on it, somebody else will be stuck on it. And actually, if we can have a chat in the comments and share that knowledge, then we are going to be healing more and more people as time goes by, which is just beautiful. Thanks very much. Bye.